Before this video starts, I just want to make everyone aware this is not going to be your normal style of Northwind aerial video. We're going to be covering some pretty heavy topics and thoughts that I'm perfectly happy to be told I'm wrong about. But they're my opinions and my experiences and my stories and my thoughts on some pretty heavy topics. So if you're a friend or family member that doesn't want to learn some pretty sad, dark, deep thoughts from me, I wouldn't recommend watching this. I know it's not the greatest for a YouTuber to say, hey, don't watch this video, but we're going to be talking about some really rough stuff. So, that's your warning. So this video is going to be quite different from anything else I've put out on this channel. I unfortunately got the idea to do this video when I received some pretty bad news at around the beginning or so of this month. A family member who is also a military member of one of my military best friends killed themselves. That military friend of mine also killed themselves several years ago. I actually gave his name to one of my children as a middle name in his honor after finding out about the fact he took his own life. So being that it is Memorial Day as well as Mental Health Month, I kind of wanted to share some thoughts and kind of talk about my own experiences with mental health. I'm not making this trying to get sympathy or anything at all. I am more than fine, and I don't need any praise or any sympathy, again, for the struggles that are going on in my own brain. I just kind of want to share a story because for anyone who's seen this channel or knows me in person knows that a lot of the times I kind of give off an act of sorts. I like to be funny, or at least I like to try to be funny. So I just kind of wanted to talk about my own experiences with it. And it's not just limited to the military. I know we always hear the statistic that there's around 20 to 22 veteran suicides every single day. But there's people that struggle with this in all jobs and professions and walks of life. So this is for all of you. Not just active service, not just vets, not just those in EMS or law enforcement or firefighting or any other extremely stressful job that we're subjected to the horrors of the world and the horrors of reality and the horrors of mortality, and we have to wake up the next day and keep going. So, a little bit of backstory. United States Air Force veteran, never saw combat. The vast majority of my 4-year enlistment was very peaceful and very stable. That didn't stop me from coming very close to ending my own life on 3 separate occasions as it pertains to the military. The first time was my deployment, and by deployment I mean a very short stint in Kuwait, which a lot of my military friends don't quite consider a deployment, and I can kind of see it. There was no combat. It was just long, stressful hours in the desert far away from home. My squadron did not quite get along with each other. I was security forces, which is the Air Force version of military police, and we deployed with men and women from many different squadrons. So I deployed with a small team from my home base, and left most of my friends who were from different squadrons. They did not deploy with me, so I did not have a lot of the friends with me that I could go and talk to. I was left with a lot of guys and girls I really didn't get along with. Difference of opinions on how things should be run, difference in opinions on how disciplinary issues should be handled, posted with people I had nothing in common with, and we made it work, but it led to a lot of loneliness, a lot of feeling like this is never going to end, a lot of feeling that I was just trying to survive. And I remember, I think I was probably 2 or 3 months into my deployment at this time, and I was a very young man. I had just turned 20 and was still getting used to military life, being away from all of my friends and family back home, and then being used to all of my friends and family that I had made in the Air Force back in my home base. And I had had a couple mess ups, and it felt like no one had my back. It felt like everyone was out to get me instead of being there for me. And I remember being posted at the main checkpoint of Ali Al Salam, the base where I was stationed in Kuwait. And I remember taking off my body armor, my interceptor vest with plates in it. And I remember placing my M4 carbine to my chest to see if I could reach that far, which I could. And my thought process was I was going to rack around and set it to 3-round burst. And that 3-round burst would destroy my heart and knock me out very quick. But my family would be able to have an open casket funeral, at least. They would be able to see my face one more time when I returned home. If I recall correctly, around that time we had something like 11 suicides in the Air Force in a very short time span, and the majority of the suicides were in my career field. I don't know what kept me from pulling the trigger that night. I think it was just a feeling of, no, I'll push through this. Count the days. It's over 10 years or so ago now, but I remember we were living from Tuesday to Thursday to Sunday and from paycheck to paycheck, because Tuesdays and Thursdays were spaghetti night and taco night, and then on Sundays, or at least every other Sunday, there was Belgian waffles. And that's what kept me going, as silly as it sounds. We were working 12-hour shifts, 3 days on, 1 day off, plus an hour give or take, arming and de-arming before we went out to post. I was exhausted and alone. I still don't know what kept me from doing it. The second time was after my deployment. I don't take many days off. I didn't take many days off in the military either. I had not taken leave in over a year and a half, and I wanted to go home for my 21st birthday. And due to staffing issues or spite, I'm not sure what, but my supervisor denied my leave. Thankfully, another supervisor and a higher ranking supervisor, I want to leave all names, genders, and rank out of this, so that way no one gets doxxed for this, but I found out my leave request was being denied. And this is right after coming home from this deployment, so a lot of those feelings of loneliness and frustration were still very much there. And I remember arming up to go out to post, and my supervisor was there at the clearing station, and I remember looking them in the eyes, and they smiled at me, and I looked down at my pistol as I was arming up, and the thought went through my head of, do I shoot my supervisor first and then shoot me? Or do I just shoot myself and make them have to live with that for the rest of their life? And once again, I decided to just go to work. The final time, at least related to the military, where I wanted to take my own life was after I'd separated, which is coming up on about 10 years or so ago now. I had left all of my found family and friends behind, and I had come back home to work on the farm. And the feelings of loneliness came back because all of my friends had continued on with their careers and had found new friends to hang out with. And that's not me blaming them, not at all. Please don't take it that way. It's just the nature of what happens when you uproot yourself and move away for 4 years and everyone else stays home and continues on with their lives. But now suddenly I had no set schedule, I had no routine. I was trying to find myself as a person again after ending being Senior Airman Danley and becoming Tim again. And at this point I had just gotten out of a relationship, so that feeling was even more lonely. I had been rude to a friend, and they had chastised me for it, a military friend. And I decided I can't do this anymore. So I drove to a spot not all that far from here with a bottle of scotch and my puppy, And I sat out and I looked at the field of wheat. And I pulled from that Scotch bottle and watched my dog run around. And I had my Beretta 92 that I'd purchased in my other hand because I had wanted the same weapons I'd carried with me in the military back home. And I had that pressed to my head. And the two thoughts that I know for sure saved me then was the thought of my border collie puppy is going to be confused and scared and sad because he's several miles from home and doesn't know what's happened. And I didn't want him to have to deal with that. And I also thought of how many other great tasting whiskeys are there in the world that I haven't tried yet. So I put the pistol away and I went home. I've struggled with depression most of my life. But those were the three big instances where I came very close to leaving this life. I share these stories again, not for sympathy. It's for any of you out there who this story might sound familiar to, so that you know you're not alone. And I've been right there with you. I know those feelings of loneliness. I know those feelings of despair, the feelings of nothing's going to get better, the feelings of when is this ever going to end? When am I ever going to feel better again? And as those days and weeks and months and years drag on and you never do, you start to look for other options out. It's never the answer. Things will get better. If I had gone through with my plans on any of those three occasions, I would not have the beautiful family I have today. I would not have the friends I have in the military, in farming, in search and rescue, in firefighting. I wouldn't have gotten to experience any of those things. And I can't imagine that. A lot of my friends have always told me I should seek therapy. And I am probably one of the most vehement persons against it at times, it feels like, much due to the chagrin of several of my friends. Again, going back to the military, they say there isn't a stigma to it, but there is. I remember mentioning I was stressed out to one of the military health advisors, officials, I can't remember the exact term, and they immediately whisked me away to speak to several doctors who grilled me for hours, and they wanted to put me on the do not arm roster, which for security forces is a career death sentence. You will have to give up your beret and your badge and your gun, and you will be sentenced, it feels like, to cleaning the latrines and sweeping the floors and mopping the floors and just doing menial duty, and everyone will look at you differently. So I lied and said I was fine, and I said I misspoke, because the last thing I wanted to do was not be working in my job that I was doing at the time. Thankfully, I had a great supervisor and a great boss at this point who were completely understanding and allowed me to keep working as long as I promised I was not going to do anything to hurt myself. So being able to work and keep pushing through everything saved me. I understand the potential benefits of having the do not arm roster. I really do, but I was so terrified to be put on that I wonder what I would have done if I'd ended up on that. If I'd had the job that I loved at that point taken away from me. After that third incident was around the time where I joined my local fire department. And just got my first couple doses of PTSD within the first couple of years. We have a lot of vehicle accidents in our area. A lot of horrific vehicle accidents. I have seen things that I can't get out of my brain. But I have a fantastic support group of the men and women with me that go and see those same things. And we talk. We talk to each other. A short distance over there, I have a hammock that I was laying in on a beautiful day, drinking a beer. I think it was 3 days after a certain vehicle accident that we had that had the things I'd seen on it were burned into my brain. And I remember sending out a Snapchat, a cry for help to several of my friends, and basically saying, I don't know how much I can do this anymore. And within seconds, one of the guys at the fire department called me. And he listened to me sob uncontrollably for about 30 minutes. When my friend took his own life, I had 4 phone calls within a half an hour from all of these, from some of the guys at the fire department checking up on me. When we had a vehicle accident that again etched itself into my brain a short time ago, and it sent me into what I can probably only describe as some sort of panic attack in the shower as I hyperventilated and rocked back and forth, completely unable to control myself for about 30 minutes or so. I had that same support group there. I had friends that I could call and talk to about, text and talk to about, go sit down at the station and say, look, I might need to take some time off to not be responding as much as I have been because this has affected me. And they were understanding, and they listened, and they said, hey, do what you need to do, get yourself right. And you might be thinking, well, you're very lucky to have that sort of support group. I don't. I guarantee you do. I guarantee you have friends and family that would be thrilled to do nothing more than to listen to you while you scream, while you cry, while you choke on your tears and you scream at God. You have friends that will listen to you, and they will not judge you. I guarantee you have those. And if you are struggling at all, you need to reach out to them. I personally am not someone I could ever see truly going and sitting down with a therapist as much as my wife and friends have asked me to. But if that is something that works for you, there are plenty out there. And that is their job, is to help you get all of those things right in your head. So whether it's a professional or just friends and family, talk. Talk to them. Tell them what's going on in your head. Another great thing you can do, I found has worked very well for me, to bring yourself out of that dark place, is to help others. I will never judge someone who says they're not cut out for search and rescue or firefighting or EMS or the military. We're not all cut out for that. We're all completely different human beings. We all can't handle the same amount of stress. There are many other organizations you can get involved in to help others that don't involve seeing the horrors of the world. Kiwanis, Rotary, Lions, Boys and Girls Club, volunteering at your local soup kitchen. Do something to help someone. It's one of the reasons why I've stayed with volunteer firefighting and volunteer search and rescue for so long, as well as helping out with my local Kiwanis and just trying to do everything I can around town. It's one of the reasons why I like making all these silly farming videos and whatnot. Just because it makes people happy. And you'll find when you help other people and make other people happy, it pushes back that darkness that is always there, threatening to encroach. Once you pull that trigger, there's no taking it back. Things will not get better. They definitely won't get better for anyone around you. But if you talk to someone and you get involved in your community, or even if you just go for a walk, work in the garden, come outside and stare at the moon, things can get better. For those of you that aren't struggling, but you know someone who might, give them a phone call, shoot them a text, check in with them every day on Snapchat with a silly story about your day. You never know how much that could mean to that person and what you might keep them from doing. I wish I'd called my friend. Our last conversation was talking about meeting up in New Mexico for beers. And I wish I'd known, because I would have bought a plane ticket out and had beers with him in the desert as soon as I could. My friend was one of the coolest guys I've ever met. He was one of the most funniest and goofiest guys. I remember him being chased by camels in Kuwait. I remember him dancing to dubstep like an idiot. I remember I was so jealous of his compact M249, because all we had were the old traditional style ones, which just, they weren't as tactical. And I love tactical stuff, what can I say? And now he's gone. And now his family is struggling again by losing one of his siblings. And I never even knew his sibling, but it feels like losing him all over again. The family doesn't deserve to have that happen to them once, let alone twice. I'm wearing a shirt that says mental health matters, and yeah, it's a slogan, but I have a little inside joke with me and kind of one of my other buddies from the military. If you watch my videos, you might catch a glimpse of it, but on the top of my helmet, I have a morale patch that says mental health matters. And it's kind of a double entendre of reminding you when you're wearing your helmet that mental health does matter. And also to keep your head down so you don't take a round to the dome. There's a song another one of my buddies from the military introduced me to that one of the lines goes, keep your hopes up high and your head down low. And I always think about that. So mental health matters. Keep your hopes up high and keep your head down low. I'm not trying to make this video to be all about shaming people for not remembering what Memorial Day is about. And I know Memorial Day is centered around remembering veterans and servicemen that we've lost. But for me, it's remembering all those we've lost. Military, EMS, police, firefighting, and everyone in between. Everyone that has decided to take their own life or has been lost. So as the Mental Health Awareness Month of May comes to an end and we go out to enjoy our Memorial Day, I don't want to shame you or say don't enjoy your barbecue because remember all those we've lost, but keep them in the back of your mind and remember, maybe invite that friend, that family member that's been struggling. Maybe invite them to your barbecue this weekend. I would give literally anything to have my friend back and his sibling back and all those we've lost because we didn't know the struggles they were facing. I'd give anything to have them back. So if you are one of those people that is struggling, just know that we want you here. We need you here. We need you with us in our lives. Don't leave us.